Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn about computer networks, and the topic is Network Fundamental 1. Now see, students, this is a very important topic for class 10th, and we should understand the details of this given topic with full concentration. So let us start and see the contents of the topic one by one. So students, this is Network Fundamental Part 1 for class 10th. Students, what is a computer network? Let us first understand what computer network is. Students, you would have seen many computers in a computer lab. Now when you see these computers in a computer lab, the computers may be standalone. That is, each and every computer can be used alone. They may not be connected together, and one file of a given computer may not be sent to another computer. This was the theory before 70 to 80 years. But afterwards, during the Second World War, some experiments were undertaken in United States of America. In those experiments, it was seen that computers which were even far away geographically from each other could be connected and data could be shared among them. And that formed the genesis of computer networks. If we talk of a computer network in today's world, the answer would be a computer network is a collection of computers and other hardware components. Students, other hardware components mean printer, hub, switch, gateway, router, bridge. Many things are there. They are hardwares or a combination of hardware and software. And because they are there, a computer network is possible. Computer network has computers, but to connect the computers with each other when they are far away, we need very important gadgets, I should say hardware equipments with software facilities in it, and if they are there, then only the network is possible. So what is a computer network? It is not at all only collection of computers, or I should say connection of computers, but with connection or collection of computers, it also contains many hardware components. For our levels, we will say these components to be a hub, a switch, a printer, etc. Now, these computers are connected to each other, that is, they are interconnected by the help of communication channels. Now what is a communication channel? Suppose I want to connect two computers. I can connect the computers through a wire. The wire can be of three types, students. They are said to be of three types. One is known as twisted pair cable. The other is known as coaxial cable. And the third one, which is nowadays used by all the telephone companies, or I should say communication companies, the third one is fiber optics cable, that is optical fiber. So these are the three types which are used when we talk of wires or cables. And you see, students, wires and cables are physical things. So when you connect computers using these wires, we say it to be guided connection. That is, the medium, the connecting medium is a guided one, G-U-I-D-E-D, guided one. But students, the technology has enhanced a lot. Nowadays, we even don't require wires to connect computers. We have wireless mediums to connect computers. The wireless mediums that are used can be microwave is there for long distance. We have small, say, infrared rays also for small distance. So there are different types of wireless connections. We know that we have 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, WiMAX. These all are what? These all are wireless connections. And students, when computers are connected using wireless mediums, we say that we are using unguided medium. Because you cannot find the physical route through which the connection has been made. It is all imaginary, but the connection works. So this is known as unguided medium. So there are two types of medium to interconnect the computer, or I should say there are two types of communication channels to interconnect the computers. One is guided, the other one is unguided. Guided means physical medium to be used, and these mediums are wires, and they are of three types: twisted pair, coaxial cable and fiber optics cable. Twisted pair cable has a double helix structure and it had been used earlier. Nowadays it is not used because using twisted pair cables you could not send the data to a longer distance. The data was sent to a short distance, and the data which was sent through these wires died out after a given distance. Some equipments were used to regenerate these given signals when they died out or when they were going to die out. These hardwares which were used were said to be repeaters. In cable TV network, they are said to be amplifiers, but when data is sent through networks, we use same sort of things and it is known as repeaters. After every 80 meters, a repeater used to be required. Now, after the use of twisted pair cable, because of its limitations, a new type of cable came into existence and it was known as coaxial cable. Now cable TV networks also use coaxial cable, and the computer world for making its own network uses coaxial cable. But the cable TV networks uses broadband coaxial cable and the computer world uses baseband coaxial cable. Now if you open and see these cables, the cable has more than one layers. The first layer has a plastic covering, then we have some wires, then another coating, and then we have a wire mesh. So the same wire contains two given layers of wires, one wire mesh and one given layer of wire, copper wire, and that is being used in most of the computer networks. But the telephone world, that is the communication world, cannot rely on coaxial cable to give facilities to all the connection holders who uses their connectivity. That is, I mean, if there is a company and that company gives telephone connections or mobile connectivity, we say it to be a service provider, and that company cannot rely on coaxial cable because coaxial cable is good enough but not fast enough. So a third sort of wires are nowadays being used broadly by the telephone companies, by the government, and that is known as fiber optics cable or optical fiber. See students, optical fiber cables have glass slits within it, and it uses some physics formula of critical angles, and it sends data in the form of light impulses and therefore with the speed of light. So it is very fast and it is being used by the company because we all want from the company that the company should provide us all the data we need very fast. Otherwise, we will leave that company and take connection from some other company. So the companies are facing competition, and therefore they want to be the best, and therefore they spend a lot of money for implementing fiber optics connection, or I should say optical fiber connection. These are required to spend a lot of money, but the companies are ready to spend a lot of money to help us out, to give services to us. So how many types of connectivity we have? We have fiber optics wired communication channel, we have, or we should say we had twisted pair communication channel and coaxial communication channel when we are talking of guided medium. And in unguided, I said microwave is there, infrared rays is there, WiMAX use microwave, Wi-Fi use infrared rays, and they give the connectivity. We have 2G, 3G from the telephone companies. So these are there. So I think students have understood how these computers are connected and why I was talking of telephones, because smartphones are nothing but they are also a type of computers. Now let us see the advantage which we get when we connect computers together. So we'll go and see the advantage. The advantage is that it allows us to share our resources and information. Now, what is resources and what is information? Suppose students, if we see today, you are seeing this given presentation. It is in the form of a video. Now this presentation has a lot of information and you are getting this information because you are in a network. You are using a computer network. You are using internet. And what is this? Is it not the information you are getting? So this is an information. Now let us understand what resources are. Resources are hardware equipments. For example, you are suppose in a cyber cafe, or you should visualize that you are in the computer lab of a school. Now suppose you want to print something in the lab. Do you think that the school is going to provide one printer for each computer? That means if the school has in the lab 100 computers, the school should also provide 100 printers attached to these 100 computers. No, students, it cannot be feasible. It is not cost effective. It is a loss to the organization. What the organization is going to do is, it is to plant only one printer for all those 100 given computers. And these 100 computers, if they are connected to the printer with the help of a computer network, then any one of us who reads in that school and is sitting in that lab can give the print command, and the printer is going to obey that given command and print the document. So what did we find? All those 100 computers are sharing the same printer. And how is it possible? It is possible because we are in a computer network. Similarly, if we had to plant a scanner, how many scanners we would have planted? We would have planted only one scanner, and all of us sitting in those 100 computers would have used that same scanner. So what are we sharing? We are sharing the printer, we are sharing the scanner, we may be sharing a plotter, we are sharing one hub, we may be sharing one switch or two switches. So all these things means that we are sharing resources. So it is a very big advantage with respect to cost. We are not to spend a lot of money. We are saved from spending a lot of money, and this is a big advantage which we get from a computer network. Let us see few more advantages of computer networks. Now students, I said that we can share our data, and this is being given specifically here. What are the advantages? The first advantage is that computer network facilitates sharing of data. We can send and receive text, audio, video and other files using a computer network. You have seen, if you have a computer network and you are using internet, you can receive a text message, you can receive an audio message, you can receive a video message, you can receive a PowerPoint file, a PDF file, a document file, that is Word file and whatnot. You can receive many things in that given computer which is connected to a computer network. So data sharing is facilitated by computer network. Now second given thing, second is it facilitates hardware sharing. Now what is hardware sharing? I have already said we can share one printer, one scanner in a given computer network and thus save money on hardwares. Now third advantage, it facilitates internet sharing. Now students, what it means? It facilitates internet sharing. If you want to understand it, let us again go to our computer lab. Now suppose I have internet connection in my computer lab, or there is a computer lab which has internet connection. Now students, do you think that if there are 100 computers in that computer lab, we will buy one internet connection for each of them? That is, we will buy 100 internet connections from the internet service provider because we have 100 computers? No students, it cannot be done. Actually, what we do is we buy one given internet connection and we share it among the 100 given computers. So aren't we sharing internet? Yes, we are sharing internet, and here also we are saving our money, as we don't need as many internet connections as the number of computers in the network. So we need only one internet connection and that can be shared among all the computers of the network. So a computer network facilitates internet sharing. Let us see how we can use this internet in that given network. This is also an advantage because you have internet now, you have shared internet in all those 100 computers. So all those 100 computers can allow us to work with applications like email, video conferencing, chatting, video calling, instant messaging, social networking. We can download online video, we can merge the videos, we can cut the audio and whatnot. We can do a lot of things, we can play games. So many facilities come in with a computer network. How is it possible? Because the computer is in a network. If even I had a standalone, but when I am using internet, then also we are in a network. My computer is connected to a web server. It is taking information from the web server. So my computer is wirelessly connected. So internet itself brings the computer network with it. So we will say computer network has one more advantage. We can use internet and these given applications of internet. Now students, we have talked a lot of the advantages of computer network. Why have we spent a slide on advantage of computer network? Because this is a very important question in your board exam. A question is asked, state advantages of computer network. So you can now well write what are the advantages of computer network. Now we'll go to the architecture of computer network. How a computer network is actually designed, how it is implemented, what is the authoritative level of these given computers in the network. We'll talk of that. See students, there are two types of network architecture that is used when we talk of computer network. One is known as peer-to-peer network. Now let us see what is peer-to-peer network. To understand peer-to-peer network, we will again go back to a computer lab. So what architectures we have? P2P, that is peer-to-peer architecture. And to understand peer-to-peer architecture, we will go back to our computer lab or say any computer lab, and in that lab, suppose we have 100 computers. Students, with these 100 computers, each computers have their own hard disks. Suppose they have their own hard disks. So you are allowed to save whatever you create, whatever file you create. You can save that file in that computer only where you are sitting. But if you want to save it in some other computers, you are even allowed to save. So is it a necessity that always you need a place where you would be saving your data, and that place is outside the premises of your computer? No, students. In peer-to-peer network, as you have your own hard disk attached to your own computer where you are sitting, you can save the data in your computer only. But if you want to save it somewhere else, you are free to. You can save it in some other's computer because you are in the network, or say a particular computer because that computer is also in a network other than your computer. So what it means that you are free. You have an authoritative power. You are not less than or your computer is not less than the computers besides you while you are sitting in that computer network. Similarly, other computers are also not lesser than your computer in power. They can also have their own hard disk. They can save the data in their own hard disk. If they want, they can also request you to save the data in your hard disk or your computer. So you enjoy friendship. These computers enjoy friendship. They understand that none are powerful. All of us are of the same levels. We have the same authoritative level, and therefore we use the word peer. Peer means friend. Peer means same levels. So this sort of network where we are not bound to save the file in a special computer, we can save the file at our discretion, maybe in our own computer, or if I decide or we decide in a computer other than our computer, then it is known as we have the authoritative level. And if the network facilitates it, network allows it, because if it contains hard disks in each of these computers for getting saved, for the data getting saved there, we say it to be peer-to-peer architecture. Now the second one is client-server architecture. Students, client-server architecture is bit different. In client-server architecture, what we do is we have a client. That is, it is also a computer. Maybe that computer, the client computer, may not have a hard disk. It is bound to save. It has been strictly said to save the data in the server computer. So clients would be dumb machines most of the times, and they require the server for their data to be saved, and therefore all the data are saved in the server. And when the client requests those data, the server provides the data back to the client. So the server gives the service of saving the data as well as producing back the data whenever required by the client. Therefore, they are known as server. And clients are dumb machines which only do the work, but when it comes to save the data after the work has been done would be saved in the server computer. We can give real life examples of client server architecture as we gave a real life example for peer to peer. I gave the example of computer network. Cyber cafe is also an example of peer to peer. So the computer lab, cyber cafe, they are example of peer to peer. But when it comes to client server architecture, you see the railway reservation system, the banking system, they all are client server architecture. Suppose you want to buy a ticket for a train, you go to the railway booking counter. There you give your reservation slip to the booking counter clerk. He sees the slip and enters all the details about you in the computer in front of him. But that computer is a client. When he says to save the data may get saved somewhere else, say in Mumbai or say in Calcutta, where the server is located. So the computer where actually the data is being fed is a client, and the computer at Mumbai or Calcutta head office is the server. So this is what the technology of computer network, or I should say architecture of computer network is being used when it comes to railway reservation system, airways reservation system, banking system, and many other system of that sort. When you even fill a form at your home to take admission in a school, so the data which you send is saved somewhere else in the school server. So that is also client server architecture. So client server architecture are nowadays broadly used, but for simple works where the data is not at all important, it may be saved in your own computer also, and then we are using the peer-to-peer architecture. So two architectures are broadly used in the world of computer networks. Students, so what we read? We read that in peer-to-peer architecture, all computers have an equal status. In such a network, each terminal has an equally competent CPU and a hard disk, and they can be used to save the data. Now, if we talk of client-server architecture, in client-server architecture, some of the computers in the network have special dedicated tasks of providing service to the other computers. As I said, they save the data and they even produce the data back for the clients, and these computers, these special dedicated computers are known as servers. And the computers which we know that they are servers, and the computer which uses these services are called clients. So clients are dumb machines. They make the data but save the data in the server. When they require this data, they request for the data to the server, and the server gives back the data to the client. So client relies on the server for their work. So client server architecture, what are the examples? As I said, the examples are railways and airways reservation system, the banking system. They are examples of client server architecture. So students, we have talked of client server architecture. Now we are going to see types of network. Now this types of network is actually divided on the basis of the amount of area or used by the network or enjoyed by the network. The network can enjoy a small area, that is, I can enjoy the computer connectivity within a small geographical area. I may enjoy the computer connectivity within a bigger geographical area. Maybe the whole world would be the area, or maybe even the whole universe can be made an area. So this is the geographical extent to which we can use a computer network, and on the basis of that, the computer network has been divided into. So on the basis of the area covered, the computer network has been divided into local area network and wide area network. Local area network means a small geographical area, maybe the apartment where we reside, and the apartment around that apartment can be an area where we can enjoy the computer network. If we go beyond that area, the computer network breaks up. It gets disconnected. And what is wide area network? Wide area network means a bigger geographical area that can extend into the whole world or say the universe. So it is about bigger area. So these are two important given types of network. But with these two types of network, there are two more. What are those two more? We have metropolitan area network and we have personalized area network. Now what is metropolitan area network? Suppose we are using a cable TV network and that network has extended to the whole given city. It is covering say many kilometers. So it is not within LAN now, it is within MAN, that is metropolitan area network. So metropolitan area network means bigger than LAN but smaller than WAN. And there is one more given network which we use, and that is known as personalized area network. Now what is personalized area network? Students, in your home even you use say a mobile to connect or extend the facility of internet to the laptop. How do you do that? You open the hotspot facility or USB tethering facility of your mobile and you connect internet into your laptop through your mobile. So are you not making a network of the smartphone and the laptop? And why are you making that? You are making that for your personal use. So this sort of connection is known as personalized area network or PAN. They can be used by an organization or by an individual. So if it is used by an organization or if it is being used by an individual, it is all personal and it is known as personalized area network. So I think you have understood, students, that two of them are important, LAN and WAN, and the rest two are also used extensively, the MAN and PAN. So they are the types of network. So local area network, let us delve deeper into local area network. So local area network actually has a connectivity of computers and the devices like printers, scanners for a limited geographical area such as your home, the school, your computer lab, the office, or maybe 2-3 buildings which are closely positioned. And one advantage of these sort of networks is that they are of high speed and we can share all the peripherals in these sort of computers. Now let us see wide area network. Now wide area network, you see, students, they cover a broad area. They can cover a metropolitan city or a region or a national boundary. I'll say the international boundary also comes within it. I'll say interplanetary boundaries also, because if you see that if you have taken a spaceship and if you are going in that spaceship and you have a laptop connection and it has internet, so your internet area is ballooning with you, it is also increasing with you. When you reach, say, Jupiter, even if you reach Jupiter, so you are using internet from there, so your cyberspace increases and extends till Jupiter and you are within wide area network. So wide area network means it has no given boundary or limit. It can extend and again when you come back it can shrink down from Jupiter. So this is wide area network. Now internet is one of the most popular wide area network and we all are using it extensively. We are using it for our businesses, governments are using for their work, NPOs, that is non-profit organizations, are also using extensively. We individuals, maybe we are artists, entertainers, teachers, students, scientists, we are also using it. And one more important thing, consumers, we are also using it a lot. How consumers are using? We are going for online transaction, we are going for online bankings. So we are using internet to the full extent and it has made our world easier. So students, we have talked of the types of network, that is the local area network, the wide area network, and within wide area network internet should get much more focus. So we have a topic now and that topic is internet. Let us see the topic internet. Now internet, what it is? It is a network of networks. Why I am saying that internet is a network of networks? Suppose you have a computer lab in your school and if that lab has an internet connection, you can open an given encyclopedia and you can use that encyclopedia in your computer lab. Suppose you are going for an online exam, so you can open the form and fill the answers of the online exam from your computer lab. Don't you think that this is possible only if another sort of network which were somewhere else is supplying all those questions to you? So what have you done? That given network which is supplying questions is being connected to your computer lab network and therefore you are enjoying the facility of internet and giving the answers through your computer lab. So isn't it connection of two computers? And if we broadly see, it is connection of two computer network, one your computer labs network and second the organization's network which is giving the facility of sending the questions which you are answering. So isn't it connection of two networks? Yes, and it is interconnection of two networks and in short it is internetwork or internet. So internet is not connection of only two computers with each other. Internet is connection of two networks or more than two networks with each other. And it is known as network of networks. So internet is a network of networks. It is a global system where all the computer networks are interconnected and they use a standard rule to serve the people. It is not that they work wayward. They have a standard protocol which is to be maintained by everyone who is making a computer network and is in a internet. So all the hardwares, all the software should follow some protocols, some rules, and it is the internet protocol should that is to be followed. And thus when it is followed, we streamline to one given protocol, or we unanimously agree to one given protocol or other protocol for a given facility. And because all of us use the same protocol, there is no problem and the world is served better. Billions of users in the world can take use of a given application or facility of internet, and they come without hindrance because of the protocols that is being maintained and implemented and followed worldwide. Now students, you know that through internet many private or public or say academic organizations, business houses, governments, they work and take the facility of internet and serve to the nation, serve to their customers, serve to the students better. If you are an academic organization or you are a business house or government, you can serve better. And they can be used even by a given person. So it can have a personal use also and a professional use also. So the arena where internet is used is broad. The stakeholders who use the internet are numerous. They can be an organization, they can be an individual and whatnot. So internet is a big talk of the town nowadays. We are using it to the full. Even this online class or the video you are seeing are possible due to internet. Now let us see the use of internet. Now what is use of internet? See students, internet is widely used by students. We all know all the educational institutes use it. We have encyclopedia that can be referred to. We can facilitate online classes as you are seeing using some web conferencing sites like we have Google Meet, we have MS Teams, we have Jitsi, we have WebEx, we have Zoom. They have their own pros and cons. We have to understand which to use and which is to be used for which given purpose. All these things has to be seen and we work accordingly. Scientists and professionals, though earlier we saw the use of internet with respect to students and academic institutions. Now we are talking of scientists and professionals. They use the internet to gather information for their research. Businesses use internet so that they can see the complex financial database and take decision according to whatever database they are actually researching on, and they can excel in their business. So that can be done by a business house. They can understand which geographical location using in the internet, which geographical location is using the product created by that business house, and they can therefore meet the demand there. And they can also find a plan out where the given products are not being used so that they can advertise the products in that given part. So they see the complex database and take decisions accordingly. So we talked of academic houses, we talked of scientists, we talked of business houses, how they use internet. Now let us see, we even as an individual use internet to contact with our friends, relatives who live in a geographical area far away from us or even nearer to us. So we can use internet as an individual and connect to our friends and relatives. We can use email software, we can use social networking sites or say web conferencing apps, and we can connect to them. Now internet nowadays has also become a major source of entertainment. We play games, we see movies, we see live shows, we see YouTube videos. So all these are what? They are source of information as well as source of entertainment. we are using it a lot. Now let us talk of one term. It is known as World Wide Web. As and when the internet came into this world, there was a concept which was said to be the concept of World Wide Web, and this term World Wide Web was coined by a man called Tim Berners-Lee. He said that internet would not have been possible without all other facilities which comes with internet, and all those facilities which comes with internet are nothing but a web, and it connects the whole world. Therefore it is World Wide Web. Now what are those facilities? See, when internet works, we need to surf the internet with the help of a web browser. Now whatever we surf comes from a server which is known as web server. So web server, web browser, the protocols that are being used in internet, the hardwares that are being used in internet, the web pages that are being regularly created, the websites that are being regularly created, all these are nothing but they are a web of documents that are ballooning every day in internet. And Tim Berners-Lee said that this ballooning volume of data and protocols and hardwares should be termed as World Wide Web. So what is World Wide Web? It is nothing but it is the collection of all these documents. And what are these documents? They are, say, web pages. Now what are web pages? They are interlinked hypertext documents. We can understand that these web pages contain text as well as animations, images, videos, everything you see. Whenever you surf a web page, you can see a video there, you can see an image there, you can see some text written there, you can see some animation there, you can see some advertisements there. So they are collection of these things, and we navigate them with the help of hyperlinks. We open a page, in that page maybe there is a blue given link, that is a text in blue color. You click it, another page opens. So these pages are linked with each other. We say they are hyperlinked with each other. And how do we do? How do we open them? With the help of a web browser. So web pages, websites, web browser, they all are part of WWW, World Wide Web. Examples of web browsers are Opera, Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, Safari, and many more. Why I have given these examples? Because in your board examinations there is a question that is asked more frequently, and that question is name any 3 or 4 web browsers, and you can give the name from here. You can even answer what is a web browser, you can even answer what is a web page. So these definitions are written in this given presentation. Now we cannot use the web browser or serve data using the web browser if we don't have a server. We should have a server, and the servers are there. They store the pages which we create and upload as websites, and whenever someone requests for those pages, they serve the pages to the requesting client. So web servers are required because they store our websites and facilitates those websites whenever required. Some examples of web servers are Apache, IIS. IIS is Internet Information Server. So now you can well understand, within the web of World Wide Web, we have websites, web pages, web browsers, as well as web servers. Then what we understood, everything, web page, web browser, web server, protocols, other softwares, hardwares, whatever are required to run internet smoothly are the part of World Wide Web, and they are increasing day by day. More and more hardwares are being introduced, more and more softwares are being or apps are being introduced day by day to be used in internet. You can well see the health apps, the payment apps, the online transaction apps, they are increasing day by day. Many of them are being used extensively. Entertainment apps, what are they? They are all parts of World Wide Web. New protocols are being introduced, new servers are coming, web browsers are coming, web pages are frequently being created, websites are being uploaded every now and then, and they all are parts of the World Wide Web. So World Wide Web is an ever ballooning thing, ever increasing thing. Understood? So this is World Wide Web. Now, web page. Again, these are important terms for your board exam. So these terms have been taken into consideration. Web page. Web page, what it is? It is an electronic page containing hypertext document. What is hypertext? Hypertext means more than text. And what are those things which are more than text? A web page contains not only text but images, videos, hyperlink texts, animations, audios, etc. etc. Web browser. Web browser is required to view the web pages. We surf the web pages with the help of web browser. So we interact with the websites, with the web pages through the web browser, that is using the web browser. So a web browser is a software which is used to view websites, and it acts as an interface between we, the user, and the World Wide Web. A web server, you know what it is? It is a computer that stores these websites, and whenever it is requested by the web browser, it serves those given websites. And what are the websites? Websites are more than one pages for a related given topic or organization, which are hyperlinked with each other. So web browsers, you know, some examples as we saw in the previous slide. Here we have those examples again because they are very important. They have been revisited. Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Opera, Google Chrome, Safari, all they are example of web browser. Now we'll talk of web server. We know it stores the websites, and whenever required by the web browsers, they serve those websites or web pages. Examples are Apache IIS. So please remember the examples, students. They are very important. They are asked with the definition of these terms. Now requirements for internet. What are the requirements? See, you need a device. You need a laptop or a smartphone, or you need some other devices. Maybe you need a smart TV nowadays. So if you have one out of them, you can request to the internet service provider, you can request them or buy the package from the internet service providers, and they provide the service to you till your package is on. So that is, your data pack is on. Now, what are the companies which provide these internet services? So we have BSNL, Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, we have Airtel, Reliance, and many more companies. We had Tata Docomo, we had many companies. Okay, so these are the names of few companies, because in board exam they can be asked. Please remember these names of ISPs, internet service provider, and they are required to get the facility of internet. We take the facility of internet from them, that is from the internet service provider. So we need a facility from the internet service provider. Moreover, we need a device called modem. What is modem? Students, in earlier days when internet were used for the first time, we used the telephone lines to connect to the internet. And you know, telephone lines used analog signals, but we used the computer for internet, and whatever data we created and wanted to send through the telephone lines were created in a computer, and therefore they were digital. So a modem was required to first convert these digital given files or data into analog so that they could travel smoothly through the telephone lines. So modem's work is to convert digital signal to analog signal. And suppose, students, you send that file to your friend. The friend is going to see that file in his computer, but when he receives this file through the telephone network, he would receive it in analog form. But his computer does not understand analog, his computer would understand digital only. So again he would require another modem there with his computer. That modem reconverts the analog signal back to digital signal. So modem does two works. It can convert digital signal to analog, and it can well convert an analog signal back to digital. Therefore it is known as modem, the full form being modulator, demodulator. Modulator means converting digital to analog, and demodulator means converting analog back to digital. So this were required. Nowadays we also use modems, but for digital data devices. So modem, the word has been respected and the word is being continued to be used, but the basic facility which a modem gave was converting an analog signal, first converting digital signal to analog and then converting analog signal back to digital. So I think we have understood this requirement. So two requirements we have read. If you are asked in the board exam what are the requirements, you will have to write these answers. Now, third, we all know we need either a computer or a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone. These are required. Fourth, you need that software, because without a web browser, how can you serve data from the internet? So you need a web browser also. So these were the requirements for internet. Now students, let us see what are the different types of internet connectivity that an internet service provider gives us. That is, as a customer, what are the different types of internet facilities we can enjoy from the internet service provider. Students, in yesteryears, when actually internet service started, the internet service provider companies actually gave a facility which was known as dial-up using modem. The same thing which I was talking, dial-up using modem means we use the telephone connectivity lines. Nowadays you will not see those lines in the world. Nowadays we have wireless smartphone connectivity, but in 30 years from now we had telephones at our home which was attached to a plug, and we could not move with that telephone. We had to keep that telephone at a corner of a room and we had to sit beside it to talk. We could not roam using that telephone, and that telephone was connected to a computer if we wanted the internet facility, and we used the computer through the telephone wire network of our state nation. So it went into the telephone exchange office, the data went into the telephone exchange office, and through the satellites it went to other computers, and that was known as dial-up network. We have talked of it, but that system has gone now. Even the telephone companies have dismantled those wires, and they are now using different sort of wires for communicating. These wires are fully digital. It need not be converted from digital to analog. Once a data is being made and sent from a computer, it has to go all digital. So nowadays the wires that are being used by the telephone companies, they are digital wires. The digital wires are actually put on the ground, and we dig a trench, put the wire inside, and then we put the soil over it, and they actually are extending from one corner of the town to another corner of the town, or say city or state, and we use that given connectivity. It is all digital, and we use two types of this direct digital connection. One is digital subscriber line, and the second is cable internet access. You know, digital subscriber line means that whenever you are using a computer with that given digital telephone connectivity network, you are totally sending the data digitally. You are not sending it to an analog counterpart and then again back you are converting it to digital. Such sort of modem connectivity is not required. Once you created the data can go digitally. One more advantage is, even when your telephone connectivity is being used to send the data through internet, if a phone call comes, you can well receive the phone call and simultaneously have a talk. But in dial-up network, till the moment you actually used internet connection, your mobile had to be put on dead mode. Your telephone had to be put on dead mode. It had to be disconnected so that the facility of internet could be taken. So you could not use both the facilities of verbal talking with a man while you are sending the data with dial-up network, but that facility can be enjoyed with direct hardwired network. Nowadays in metropolitan cities, students, you can ask for internet service to your cable service provider. He would provide you the internet service through the cable network, and you can use that internet service on your smart TV. So smart televisions can be used when you request the services from cable provider, and we say it to be cable internet access. Understood, students? Now we have these all connections where what? These all connections were wired connection. Now we'll talk of wireless connection. Now wireless connection, we have 2G, 3G, 4G, you know students, they are all connectivities. With every G, G stands for generation, the speed of data increases. The data can be provided at a higher speed. Then we have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is also connectivity where we can enjoy internet but for a short distance. And WiMAX is something which uses microwave connectivity, and we can use this given connectivity for a longer distance. Okay, where we cannot put wires. They all are used in geographical places where wires cannot be implemented. We use WiMAX there. So they are the different type of internet connections that are provided by the internet service provider. So types of internet connectivity, I said dial-up, you have understood. Internet access is in the form of what? In the form of analog signals in between, and it was used by PSTN, that is public switched telephone network. So that were the days 30 years ago. So we had to use a modem. Without modem it was not possible, and the modem used to help the data to be sent through telephone lines. Okay. So this is how we use this dial-up network. Okay, so in that system we had a number, a telephone number sort of thing. If we wanted the internet connection, we had to dial, therefore it is known as dial-up. And when we dialed the given telephone number, the internet connectivity was started at that given moment for us. Demerit was the connectivity was slow, and one more demerit, that if you used internet you could not have a verbal talk. You could not call to a person and talk with him at the same time. Second was digital subscriber line. We know it provides internet access by transmitting digital data over wires of a local telephone network. Okay, so these wires are totally digital. So we use that telephone wires, they are totally digital, no conversion from analog to digital or digital to analog is required, and it is fast even. Okay, so it is fast, and it has a very good quality. There is no interference. You can send the data without errors. Okay, and your telephone lines can be simultaneously used for even verbal calls and all. So you can do video calls at the same time while you are sending a data. So this is a bigger facility you get. Okay, but you need what? You need a digital modem. The name has been kept respectfully, modem, and digital modem is again a gadget through which the data goes before going into the telephone lines. And you need a subscription for it, you pay for it, and therefore you get the facility. Benefits is we have high speed connection here, and both the facilities, that is you can use the internet facility as well as phone calls at the same time. Now we have cable internet access. I said that it is something which you can request to your cable operator. He would be providing the internet service, and you can use the television for using that given service, and you would pay to the cable operator afterwards for this service. They are being used in metropolitan cities, and they can be used in our cities also in years to come, and I think some of us are using even. So it is similar to DSL, but we are using cable lines instead of telephone lines. It gives very high speed of connection. Now third generation, you know what third generation is. It is a set of standard used for mobile devices and mobile telecommunication services and networks. So for smartphones, mobile phones, tabs, this 3G is used. Okay, and what is the protocol they use? They use HSDPA protocol, high speed downlink packet access protocol, and the data transfer rate is very high. Please remember the protocol, students. It can be asked the full form, where it is used. This protocol is high speed downlink packet access protocol. So one more facility here with 3G is that you can roam about with your smartphone anywhere you want while you are talking or using internet. So this is a bigger facility. You are not fixed to a place. You can roam about, and the connectivity gives a high speed. Now WiMAX, I said WiMAX is actually using microwave connectivity. The full form is Worldwide Interoperability for Microwave Access. So worldwide interoperability for microwave access is what? It is a wireless communication, and it has been designed to use what? It has been designed to use mobile broadband connectivity across cities and countries through a variety of devices. You can use a variety of devices for connecting to connecting, even if you are in the mid of an ocean. From there also you can use this microwave facility. It has a range of 30 kilometers. It has towers. The towers actually interconnect each other, and therefore you can connect to the whole world using those towers. So these are the facilities. Satellite link is also used, as it is microwave for connectivity. So these are used in microwave. So it is a long range system covering many kilometers, and you use it where you cannot use the wires, that is DSL and cable internet access connectivity. Now Wi-Fi, you know Wi-Fi, you have worked with Wi-Fi. If you go to a railway station, you see you are given Wi-Fi connectivity free, and it is for a short range but has a very high speed. It uses infrared rays. Okay, you can connect computers, laptops, mobile phones and exchange data through internet using Wi-Fi. Okay, so you need a wireless access point, that is WAP, through which you get the internet facility, so that your smartphone can use that internet facility, your computer can use that internet facility, your video game console can use that internet facility. So what is important for a Wi-Fi? A WAP, that is wireless access point, which is given by, say, the mall or say the railway station or the airport, and you use it free there, or you have your own personal wireless access point. Your mobile makes a wireless access point. So it can be used in a building, in a railway station, in homes, offices, college, school, etc. Even shopping malls, coffee shops, resorts, they also give free Wi-Fi for a limited time, so that you can come around for Wi-Fi and have a cup of coffee also there, and they earn profit from you. So these are the facilities that are given. Now students, what we will do is, we'll understand how internet sends data. That is, how data is sent through internet. We will understand that. This is the mechanism which is used. Please focus on what I am showing here now. Now student, this is a blank screen. What we'll see here is that how, whenever a data is sent through internet, suppose I am on the internet, I want to send a data to you. I am sending this given PowerPoint presentation to you. So when I am sending this given PowerPoint presentation to you, how actually computer works with it, how internet works with it, how the data is sent, that mechanism we are going to understand now. Suppose I want to transfer this given message, how are you, through internet. What will happen is, the internet will actually break this message into many parts. For sake of understanding, we are taking here 3 logical parts. I am saying the message is being broken into 3 parts. That is, how is in one of the part, R is another part, and U is the third part. Now this message is actually enclosed within a packet by the internet, and we say it is now a data packet. So how many data packets have been created? We have created 3 data packets. What are they? We have how, that is a data packet which contains how. There is another packet which contains R. There is a third packet which contains U. Now this packet has been made by internet. Maybe I want to send it to you all. Now when I want to send it to you, what will the computer do after making these packets? After making these packets, the computer will add serial numbers to these packets. It will add numbers to these packets. So with how, it prefix the number 1 With R it prefixes the number 2 and with U it prefixes the number 3. Why has it been done by the internet? Because internet knows that when it is received by you, maybe it be received randomly. That is, you may receive U first, then how, then R. So how it can again serialize those? How can it put it in order? How internet would be able to put it in order? To facilitate the ordering, it initially has attached some numbers to your packet. We say it to be serial numbers. After attaching the serial numbers, it attaches one more thing. It attaches the address of your computer where it wants to send the data. Otherwise, there are n number of computers in the network. How would the internet understand which particular computer is being used for sending the data? Means which particular computer is going to receive the data? How the computer will understand? So the address of the computer to whom I am sending will get attached because of your mail ID which I will send it to you through your mail. So it knows your IP address through the mail and therefore it will use that given address and attach it to the message. So this address and serial number forms the header part and how is the data part, and the whole thing is a data packet now. Similarly, address is attached to the second packet and address is also attached to the third packet, and they also get their due header. Now things are made. Now our packets are ready to be sent. Now while we are going to send these packets, how it is going to be sent? Let us see. This is you, the receiver. You are to receive these packets. Now what happens? We are going to send, internet is going to send these packets one by one. Let us see. Now address, that is packet 1 has been sent by internet. It is going through a given route where there is less congestion, that is less traffic of packets. The internet decides which way to use. The way may be longer, but internet takes hold of that way which is congestion free, which is having less traffic of packets. Now see, address and packet for data packet 2 is sent through the right according to us through internet, because now that given route is congestion free, and now we will send the third packet. Now third packet takes the left route, so any packet can take any route. This is what the mechanism is when internet sends the packet. It all depends on the congestion, the traffic of packet. It uses those given routes which have less traffic, even if it is longer. Now we have sent the data. Now you are going to receive the data from here. Your first data comes and it is besides your computer. It has not entered your computer. The data has come. And which packet has come first? See, the third packet has come first. When we sent the third packet at the last, but maybe it was through a better route which was having less congestion, and maybe it was the shortest route, so it came first. As the data came, the computer, that is the receiver computer, sent an acknowledgement message to my computer that yes, I have received one packet. Okay, so whenever you receive the packet, your computer sends the acknowledgement message. Now R comes, the second given packet comes. So again I will send my computer, your computer will send a acknowledgement signal to my computer, and I will receive that acknowledgement, and I will feel free. My internet will feel free that okay, this has been received. Now third packet also comes, and this is the first we had sent. Again your computer sends an acknowledgement signal to my computer, and we see that all the packets have been received. If suppose some of the packets were lost, the receiver computer could complain about those packets which were lost, because it knows the number of packets that is coming. That information comes with the packet. So it gives a complaint signal to the sender computer. The sender computer then would resend those packets which has not been received by the receiver. So this is the rule in internet, how it is done. This is the mechanism. Understood? So now let us see further. What we will see here is how you are going to receive it. After the packets are besides your computer, now the packets need to be arranged according to the serial numbers. So first of all, addresses are removed, now it is not required, and see, packet number 1 goes and gets arranged before you. Then packet number 2 goes and it gets arranged before you. Then packet number 3 goes and it gets arranged before you. So all the packets are now in proper order. It is in serial order and you receive it one by one. See, the serial number is removed and the actual data is received by you. You understand? I have sent how are you. So this is the method which is used while sending data from a computer to another computer in internet. Packets are made, serial numbers are attached to it, addresses are attached to it, then it is sent, the receiver computer receives it. As it receives it, it provides an acknowledgement signal. Whenever it doesn't receive a packet, it will provide a complaint signal. Those packets will be resent to the receiver, and once all the packets have been received, they would be put on serial order after removing the address. After putting on serial order, the serial numbers would be removed and the actual data would be received by the receiver. This is the mechanism. So data transfer on internet, the data is broken into bits of same small sized packets. A header is attached to the packet which contains the details of where the data has come from and where it has to end up, and it also contains the serial number, because it says where the given packet fits in with the rest of the packet. So serial number is given. Now each packet is sent from the computer to the receiver computer, and then how it is sent? It is sent from our computer to different computers in the path till the receiver computer receives it. All the packets may not take the same route. As we have seen, they can take different route depending upon the congestion at that given time. When the destination gets the packets, it examines the packet, and if any packet is missing, it sends a message back to the sender computer, and the sender computer accordingly resends those packets. And this continues until all the packets have been received. When all the packets have been received, what happens? The packets are reassembled into their original form according to serial numbers, and then it is received. Students, in this way we have completed the topic network fundamentals, and I think you have understood each and everything given there. In the next given video we will see a newer topic, and it is the end of the network fundamental topic. So please read it properly and have a nice day ahead. Thank you. Thanks a lot.